Good morning, or good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. My legends, my wolves and warriors, welcome to another episode of the podcast. Knock, 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 wakey, wakey, hand off snakey. If you're in Australia, we are going to kick this podcast off in a couple of moments. It's going to be a really short podcast, but I do want to deal with it because I think it's a good podcast episode to share with everyone, particularly if you are new inside the academy. Okay, so guys, let us know if you are coming in to watch this one live. It's going to be a basics podcast and a podcast that you should be directed to if you've ever questioned, the size of your calorie cut and what you should do, how you should go about it. So guys, let us know if you're coming in. We've got Nicky Duggan. How are you, sexy legs? Good to see you in here, brother. Ooh, I love you in here, mate. Bobby Gordon, what's going on, mate? I hope you're having a good dry start to the day, Bobby boy. We got Jeff Cockley in here. How are you, Jeffro? Mastermind legend. Boys, you should see Jeff absolutely dominating in the mastermind so far. He's really ripping the scab off, which is amazing. Now, I think this is Dave Leggett. So, Dave, what you need to do if you can, I don't know if I did it. Did I put the link above? Just above here, Dave. Just under the title, so you can click it and I can display your actual real name. Nico, what's going on there, mate? I hope you're good. We've got, I love you too, Nico, brother. You're absolutely special to me, mate. Have your socks turned up yet? Tell me that they've turned up, because they haven't turned up. I don't know what's going on, mate, because we posted them last week. Kristen Faulkner, what is going on? Speak of mastermind legends, what's going down, girl? I hope you got some rest last night, mate. We're going to start in 30 seconds, guys, with this Basics 101 podcast, straight value, no mindset stuff here. We're going to be talking about calories. So let me know if you are coming into this one live. That's all right, Dave. I know it's you, mate. So I'll put it up in the next one. It just it's a little function that they have there to authorize StreamYard. Yeah, Nico's probably sold all your gear, mate. All right, I'll see if I can track the tracking number, mate. So the boss has all of that information, I believe. So guys, are we ready to rock and roll? So I think we're pretty good. A few people watching in live. I love it. We're across all of the platforms: LinkedIn, Facebook, groups, YouTube. It's all happening, guys. So let's get stuck. Hello, Marky Hunter. How are you, my dude? Let's go. All right, on the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you can come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Now, in today's episode, this is going to be a short, simple episode, and I'm simply responding to a client question that I've got just now. And I think it's a question that would be well answered across everyone, because sometimes there is this tendency to kind of really cut calories quite quickly. And I think it's a great question that my boy Dave Leggett has asked. Dave's this guy who is, he's probably been not the fittest space for a period of years, but he decided it's his time now to get involved in the academy. And I am always talking about grade A clients. Grade A clients, the way I classify them is clients that are respectful and really, really nice, and clients that don't go missing. They ask questions and they follow the plan. My boy Dave Leggett does exactly that. So I'm going to go to Dave's question, okay? So it was a two-part question, but I'm just going to focus on the backside of the question, which was, I have been pretty good with tracking my food, but find on some days I get to around 1,500 to 1,600 calories, and I'm guessing he's kind of full, and he wants to know, what is too low calories for a day? What a brilliant question. Okay, so let's take a step back, add some context for this video, because if you're in the Better Body Academy, you know one thing, okay? You know one thing, that despite all of these stupid diets that people prescribe, if you want to lose fat, you need to get into a calorie deficit. I think with the kind of advent of things like TikTok and Instagram Reels, like that is so highly circulated now that everyone pretty much knows that. Of course, there are people, that still hold on to their old, but I'm doing keto and I'm doing vegetarian, I'm doing all these different things. What they're not understanding is the reason that those things work in the short term, because underpinning whatever crazy system they're following is a calorie deficit. So this is the reason why I'm personally, like, I question the need to want to restrict yourself to certain food groups or omit certain food groups or have to eat with a certain exclusion here and there when you can actually just eat anything and pay attention to the calories. To me, it's a much smarter way to go about things. I do digress from the question because the follow-on would be, okay, well, how many calories should I be eating? Okay. And I don't think that that's a question that's easily answered for everyone. And the reason is because there are many different things that would make up a person's daily calorie requirement. Okay? The number one thing that makes up someone's daily calorie requirement is going to be their daily energy expenditure. That is the amount of calories that they burn on a daily basis. That's going to be comprised of a few things. Number one, what they burn when they just sit in the lounge for 24 hours. We call that our metabolism. And then we need to add on some extra stuff for any activity that they do for a day. That activity can include things like going for a run or going to the gym, or it can include jumping on a podcast and talking with your hands, walking to the toilet, okay? And so what we get here is a daily calorie expenditure. And so then we've got to ask ourselves, if we know our daily calorie expenditure, what do we want to do? Do we want to lose weight? Do we want to maintain weight? Or do we want to gain weight? So if you wanted to put on some muscle, you need to take that rough daily calorie burn and add some calories to it, along with some protein, but that's what you need to do. If you don't do that, your body effectively doesn't have the tools, the energy in the system to be able to build new muscle. Okay? Now, most of us who would tune into this podcast are wanting the opposite. What we're wanting to do is to lose body fat. So what we have to do is we take our maintenance calories, whatever that may be for the individual. And of course, inside Better Body Academy, I provide a kind of a generic rough guideline that we should work from. We deduct, 10, 15, 20% off that, and that becomes our calorie deficit target. Okay? So pretty simple stuff there. If you've been in the academy for a period of time, you would definitely know that. All right? So then the question is, well, hang on. If I'm doing really well by cutting my calories by, say, 10 to 15%, 20%, and I'm getting some short-term results, which would be expected if you're in a calorie deficit, okay? Because your body is quite literally running out of petrol. If your car ran out of petrol and you sat there on the side of the road pressing the accelerator, right, it's not going to go unless you give it petrol. And so your body is lucky that it's got a backup fuel source. And what is that backup fuel source? Your body fat. Okay? So think of this kind of juicy stuff that's covering our body as backup petrol sources. And what we're really trying to do is run out of petrol so that through our food and our beverages, we're trying to run out of petrol so that we can actually say to the body, okay, we're out of petrol, where's the backup fuel tank? And then we go to the body fat to be able to provide that. Now, it would seem to make sense that, okay, Jace, well, what if I just don't eat anything? Because then I'm going to run out of petrol really quite quickly. We call that starvation, and it's probably not a sustainable way to go, but will it lead to you losing fat quite quickly? Well, of course it would, because if you cut out all form of external calories, then the only place to get them is from the internal calories, right? However, in order for any kind of nutrition system to work over the long term, we need to make sure that it is sustainable. So let's pretend that we took our maintenance figure, and for the average man, that's usually going to be around, say, 2,000 sort of 500. For the average woman, around 2,200, thereabouts. And we take sort of 400 or 500 off that. We're just using rough maths here. We're going to get to a level where men should be having, say, 1,800 to 2,000. Women should be having somewhere between 1,500 to 1,600 to lose fat and be in a calorie deficit. And if we do that for long enough, well, what's going to happen? We're going to start to lose fat, okay? The problem that people run into when they don't lose fat, it's like a chicken versus the egg, okay? I'm sticking to my calorie deficit, Jason. I'm not losing fat. Well, put it the other way. You're not losing fat. And the reason you're not losing fat is because you're not in a calorie deficit despite what you say. Does this make sense? It's the chicken or the egg. You're saying, according to my tracking, I'm in a calorie deficit. But I'm saying if you're not losing fat, you're not in a calorie deficit. Like, look at the evidence. The evidence shows that you're not in a calorie deficit. And there can be a couple of reasons for that. It could be that we've run into some human error, because when we use things like, obviously, MyFitnessPal is the primary one that we use. It's imperfect. So we have to do some guesswork. But for the most part, it's human error. It's either entry incorrections or it is forgetfulness. It is, instead of putting things in as you go or in advance, it is that you actually try to do it at the end of the day based on memory. And unfortunately, we're just not, like, this has been proven 1 billion times over that when it comes to tracking food, humans have terrible recall. We're kind of going around the point. So let's just pretend you've got to your calorie deficit. The first thing that kind of enters your head, well, hang on, if I'm getting results, if I'm losing 1 kilogram a week, why don't I just cut the shit out of it? That'd be a really smart thing, because if I just really cut it down, well, that means that I'm going to get to the result quicker, right? And in the short answer, it's probably a yes. It's probably a yes. However, it comes with a few caveats. Number one, is it going to be sustainable? So let's say you're a woman and you cut to 1,000 calories. Well, you're basically not eating that much. You might go out to a meal on the weekend and you might have 1,000 calorie Italian meal and you've already hit your calorie target for the day. That doesn't sound like living. So it's not sustainable. But the other problem, and the reason I wanted to come on and do this live, is that there are implications associated with cutting too quickly. Look me in the eyes, brothers and sisters, and listen up. If you cut too quickly, there are implications. Now, why are those implications in place? Well, let's take a step back. The first thing is that you, and we're going to use Dave Leggett because he was the dude. Dave Leggett, as a bloke, wants to lose fat. Good goal, Dave. However, Dave's brain is wired for survival. So Dave's brain wants to make sure that, okay, we can lose a bit of fat, but not too much fat. Because that fat that he does have is a backup fuel source should the car conk out. So if Dave was to use all of his backup fuel source really, really quickly, that is going to burn off all the fat that's there, and that could become a future problem. That's the way the brain thinks. So Dave wants to lose the fat. Dave's brain wants survival. And the body is very calculated in the way that it does this. Now, on the nutrition side, the body, if you're restricting calories, what's it going to do? It's going to create hunger signals. It's going to say, Dave, feed me. I'm hungry. Give me some calories. But if your willpower is good enough and you're able to overcome the nutrition kind of compulsion to eat, you might be strong-willed enough to do that. Well, then the body doesn't have that as an option. The body needs to survive. So what do you think it's going to do? On the other side of the equation, it's going to look at all the things that are using petrol in your day unnecessarily and turn all those knobs down as far as it can possibly do it. So let me give you some examples. Your sex drive will be crap, okay? Yes, you might go and do your workout for 1 hour, but for the rest of the day, you'll be really, really sluggish, okay? So what's going to happen is the amount that you fidget and move is going to slow down. Your metabolism, okay? Now, that is the biggest component of the calories we burn on a daily basis. It's just literally 80% of it is just keeping you alive. So the body says, well, let's just turn the metabolic rate down a little bit to try to compensate for the fact that Dave's starving us. And so what the implication primarily is, if you're cutting calories quickly, is those adaptations, which are called collectively metabolic adaptation, happen quicker. And this basically spells disaster. It basically means that if you cut calories too quickly, there's a few problems with that. Number one is metabolically, you're slowing down. You're burning less calories. Okay? This means that you're going to come to a plateau quicker. You might get some short-term fat loss results, but you're going to come to a plateau quicker because your body is trying to stop you from losing fat. So it puts the brakes on. Does this make sense? It puts the brakes on the calories that you're burning. That's the first problem. The second problem, as we've talked about, is it's not going to be sustainable for you to continue eating, 1,000 calories a day, 1,200 calories a day. And a third problem that I see is once you're cutting large amounts at the start, everyone goes through these adaptations. Their metabolism in a calorie deficit starts to slow down. That's natural. That's the body doing its job to try to preserve your life. But the problem is if you cut too quickly, and many a man and woman has found this out, if you cut too quickly, when you do enter a genuine fat loss plateau, where, for example, over the course of 4 to 5 weeks, your weight is not moving, your waist and waist circumference measurements are not coming down, when that happens and you're at 1,200 calories, how do you cut? How do you cut more to get back into a calorie deficit? Because your body's found a new maintenance now, and now you're gonna cut again, and you're a man eating 1,000 calories a day, which is totally unsustainable. And what that usually ends in, and I'll finish on this note, what that usually ends in is driving your metabolism down so far, it becomes so unsustainable that you just say to yourself, you know what? I fucking give up. I am cooked. I am done. And what's the first thing you do? Num, 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 num. You go and binge. And that binge meal itself might be 1,000 calories. And then you might get on the beers because you're pissed off. Or you just go back to eating how you were before you come into your transformation. Maybe you're eating 2,500, 3,000, 4,000 calories a day. Now your metabolism is so low and your eating calories have gone so high because you've had a binge out and you're just like, I'm so sick of this, it's not sustainable. Now you're in a huge calorie surplus. Huge calorie surplus. What do you think happens when you're in a short-term calorie surplus after you've been in a period of semi-starvation? It all happens as rebound fat gain. And so this is the reason why people typically go through their life losing weight, putting it back on, and a little bit more. Losing weight, putting it back on, and a little bit more. Losing weight and putting it back on, and a little bit more. Project that out now to 5 years, 10 years, even though you're only putting on a little bit more, maybe 1 kilogram over 10 years. In 10 years' time, that 1 kilogram has added up to a 10 kilo fat gain, and you look in the mirror and you go, And of course, for many, many people, it's far more than 10 kilos. It's more like 20 kilos, 30 kilos, 40 kilos. And you wake up one day and you go, how did I get to this position? And it all started because you cut calories too quickly. You drove your metabolism down. Then you binged. Then you said, I've had enough of this. I'm gaining weight. I'm going to do it again. You cut calories quickly again. We call this yo-yo dieting. So a bit more of a detailed answer than I originally intended to give, but I think it's a really good chat, Dave. The question that you brought up is a really, really good one. And this is the reason why I want you to cut calories slowly, okay? What we're really going to want to do is take them from where we're at, put in a little, 300, 400, 500 calorie deficit, maintain that, squeeze the juice out of that, really until the point that we plateau for 3 or 4 weeks. We look at our waist and hip circumference and we'll go, I'm just not getting anything out of this. And then the next time you cut, you might do 150, 200 calories, but you might add on 20 minutes of walking on a treadmill after it. So you're not just cutting the calories, you're burning more calories to widen the deficit. Does this make sense? And Dave says, cheers, Jace, I'm a yo-yo. Yep, the vast majority of people are a yo-yo, and this is the reason why I'm all about the mission of building a bigger engine. Dave, calorie cutting excessive cardio. These are all short-term fixes, okay? The way to fix this long-term, and this stands for every man and woman, the way to fix this long-term is to train your body to slowly eat more calories and then do enough resistance training so that you build a bigger engine. When you build a bigger engine, all of a sudden, you're burning more calories even just sitting here. And when you're burning more calories, you can get away with more on the nutrition side of things. Hopefully that makes sense. Guys, I'm going to love you and leave you. Short, value-based podcast today. This has been the Better Body Academy podcast coming to you with no diets, no unsustainable programs, and just the no BS evidence-based nutrition and training knowledge that you need with a little bit of mindset sprinkled on top. I love you guys. I'll see you in the next episode.